Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and today we're going to have an interesting video because we are going to discuss why you should buy a Ford in the next few years. I know, pretty interesting topic, but with all that being said, let's just hop right into it. So does this mean that I have officially sold my soul to Ford? No, not exactly. Let me explain. So there's a lot of changes that are happening in the next few years, and a lot of it's because the EPA is becoming a lot more strict with automakers from a fuel economy rating perspective. Right now, by 2026, they want automakers to have an average fuel economy rating of over 50 miles per gallon, which is just crazy, but that's what's happening. It might get pushed back a little bit, or it might get pushed forward with the people we have in office right now, so who knows, right? Everything's up in the air lately. It's kind of crazy the rate at which things happen nowadays. But anyways, right? With that happening, that means automakers have to make more EV vehicles. They have to make more hybrid vehicles. They have to just make vehicles get better fuel economy, right? And I already talked about this in another video, so I don't want to focus on that too much. Now, the reason why this relates to Ford is Ford is already ahead of the curve. They just released the new Maverick Hybrid, which gets like 40 miles per gallon with a pickup truck, right? We've got the new F-150 Lightning that'll be out soon. We already have the Mustang Mach-E, and so Ford is making an effort to get these vehicles out early, right, rather than later, and that's not happening from the other American brands, right? With Stellantis, I understand Stellantis isn't technically American, but you know, they've got Dodge, Ram, Jeep, and Chrysler, and then with GM as well, right? GM is releasing a fully electric vehicle and truck, well, SUV and truck, right? The Hummer EV truck and then the Hummer EV SUV, but those are unaffordable for a regular person. And then, you know, in terms of a truck that's affordable from GM, right, the Silverado EV or the Sierra EV, that's not going to be for a few years. And then Ram, same thing with their truck, right? They're not going to have the Ram 1500 EV out for a few years. And then in terms of an electric SUV from, you know, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, or Chrysler, same thing. We're still a few years out. And so, right, we're getting to the cusp of where, you know, these fuel economy restrictions need to be met, and these automakers are, you know, Stellantis and GM are kind of waiting until the last minute, which, you know, is completely fine because, you know, people that love internal combustion engines and love, you know, big V8s and all that stuff that doesn't get the best fuel economy are going to want to be able to buy those vehicles for as long as possible. So there is some method to the madness with waiting until the last minute. That being said, though, here's why I'm kind of leaning over towards the Ford side. So what Ford is doing is early adoption, and what early adoption allows you to do is work out the kinks early so that you have everything figured out before you have to meet some sort of restriction, right, with these fuel economy ratings. And so, right, with Ford already having their fully electric SUV out, they can figure everything out in terms of, you know, reliability concerns, range concerns, charging network, all that stuff. That there's so much stuff that goes into a fully electric vehicle. It's not as simple as just throwing a battery pack in and throwing some electric motors, right? There's a lot that goes into it. And same with the new F-150 Lightning, right? They're going to figure everything out with making sure a fully electric pickup truck works, right? How do we make sure that the truck has a decent amount of range? How are we going to make sure that it has decent range when towing? You know, how are we going to make sure that this has a decent payload? How are we going to make sure that this truck works for truck people? And so with this early adoption, they're going to be able to work out all those kinks, and then also they're going to be able to ramp up production, right? You think about this. The Mustang Mach-E is already out, right? It was a 2021 model year. By the time that GM and Stellantis get a fully electric SUV out, Ford is already going to be churning out hundreds of thousands of Mustang Mach-E's per year. So it's like, oh, do you want to be able, you know, and it's going to be a situation where it's going to be like, do you want to be able to get a discounted Mustang Mach-E, or you're going to have to pay a premium for what you're going to get from GM or from Stellantis, right? That is what's going to happen, right? Because whenever a new vehicle is released, it goes for a massive premium. And then also just getting one in general, right? It's going to be difficult, especially with what we've been dealing with supply chain issues. And then same thing with the truck, right? Ford's going to have the Lightning out for, you know, at least a year, if not 2 or 3 years before we get something from GM and from Stellantis that's in the same price range. And so you're going to have this situation where basically it's like, okay, well, we have one manufacturer that's going to be producing hundreds of thousands of these vehicles per year, and you have a bunch to pick from, and you're going to be able to get it for a reasonable price. Or you can go buy the new one that is still kind of being, you know, tested and kinks are being worked out and all that fun stuff, and you're probably going to have to pay a little bit more for it, and also good luck getting one, right? hopefully that makes sense. And it's not like I don't believe in GM and Stellantis. They make really good products, and they're good at making reliable vehicles, right? I own a Ram TRX, and that truck has been amazingly reliable. And I've had 2 other Ram trucks. And then from GM, I had a Camaro ZL1, and I beat on that car a massive amount, and it had no issues whatsoever. So I believe in their reliability. The thing is, there's a big difference between having a vehicle out in the market for several years or, just coming to the market with a vehicle. And so that's why I'm kind of, again, buying on the idea of Ford kind of doing this right with the early adoption. And it's not like Ford's not offering cool vehicles, right? You can still get a GT500 that has a supercharged V8. You can still get an F-150 with a naturally aspirated 5-liter V8. There's still cool vehicles you can get from it that have crazy internal combustion engines. And then the other thing is investing is kind of showing this. So Ford had the largest growth this year from a stock perspective compared to any other automaker, even Tesla, that sometimes their stock makes absolutely no sense. So Ford had a 140% increase this year with their stock, which is absolutely impressive. Tesla, for example, they only had 49% this year, which, is still an amazing return, but it's not necessarily an amazing return for Tesla, is what I'd have to say. And then the other companies we're talking about, General Motors, had a return of 40%, so 100% less than Ford this year. And then I'm trying to find, there we go, Stellantis, 10%. So Stellantis went up the least amount. And Ford right now has the largest market cap, so it has the most money being injected into it. So not only is Ford adopting these technologies early and getting these vehicles out in the market early, they have more people investing in their company, so they have more money to play with, so they have more money to use for engineering to make even more products. And so what I kind of, again, this is now my personal guess, what I kind of guess or foresee happening in the next few years is by the time that we get an electric truck from Ram, an electric truck from GM, and a fully electric SUV from Ram and from GM that's actually affordable, right? We're going to have, like I said, tons of Lightnings and tons of Mustang Mach-Es being produced, and we're probably going to have a few other SUV and truck options from Ford. I bet by the time they get their first half-ton trucks out, Ford's probably going to already have a mid-size electric truck. They're probably going to have a few other electric SUVs. They'll probably have something that's like the size of, the Ford Escape, and they'll probably have something that's the size of an Expedition from an electric SUV perspective, right? I'm sure that they could take a lot of what they've learned from building this new F-150 Lightning to building a full-sized electric SUV. And so you're going to have options, right? And so that's kind of, that's what I'm looking at right now. And like I said, I don't have anything against GM, and I don't have anything against Stellantis. I think they're great companies, and I will still continue to buy cars from both of those companies as well as Ford. But I think in the next few years, especially if you're wanting to make the shift to a fully electric vehicle, which a lot of people are probably going to be doing that because of, gas prices and because of all these, potential taxes and restrictions and everything on gasoline vehicles, right? It might make more sense getting a fully electric vehicle. I think Ford's going to be the route to go. And I know some, there's always going to be Tesla fanatics. They're going to want me to talk about that. I probably need to make a whole another video about that, but I guess just to throw in one last point before this video sums up, I think Tesla's a great company. They have done a massive amount to fundamentally change the auto industry, but Tesla still has a lot of stuff they need to work on. Ford knows how to build cars. They've been building cars for over 100 years now. Tesla, right, is this technology company that knows how to build really good batteries, knows how to build really good electric motors, but they don't know how to build cars yet, right? Tesla's still not at that point where they really know how to build cars. There's just so many reliability issues with Tesla. There's so many just build quality issues with those cars where you just don't see those in manufacturers like Ford and like GM and like Stellantis. I know there'll be people that'll argue with me in the comments section, but the point that I'm trying to make is I would rather be buying a fully electric vehicle from a more mainstream manufacturer than Tesla. In 10 years, once Tesla has kind of figured out how to fully build a car, then maybe I'll change my mind. But right now, as it stands, it's kind of how it is. Now, that is going to sum things up for today's video. I want you guys to let me know in the comment section below if you're thinking of, making the shift to a fully electric vehicle, what you kind of think about. Obviously, we've mentioned this in another video, but all these EPA restrictions that are coming out, and what manufacturer you are looking into most in terms of buying a fully electric vehicle from. And yeah, with all that being said, I'll see all of you in the next video.